welcome to the podcast, Appetite for Horror, episode number 18. Sean McNamara, how are you, sir?
I'm great, Brandon. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Where are you calling in from, if I may ask, or unless it's a secret location?
I'm calling from St. Louis, Missouri at the beautiful St. Louis University. I'm on a scout for my next movie called On Fire.
Oh, nice. St. Louis, I was only there once. Loved it. It was years ago. It was when Tino Martinez was on the Cardinals, and I went to the Old Busch Stadium, and just lovely city. So I'm sure you're getting some good footage out there because it is a great city.
Absolutely. And it's a baseball movie about John O'Leary and Jack Buck, and we have to recreate the Old Busch Stadium.
Look at that. I didn't even know that. And it just segued right into what you're doing. Perfect. Oh, I'm looking forward to that movie as well. And before, of course, we get
Absolutely.
Yeah, right on. So, but before we get into Vindicta, which I'm excited to talk to you about, I watched it over the weekend. I enjoyed it. But I want to know a little bit more about you, if I could, because I like to know, again, as you hear my baby cooing in the background, where it starts, so to speak. Like, so when did you take, your first camcorder and start filming, where you're filming your family? When did you kind of get the director feel? Was it young in life? When did it happen for you?
I was 12 years old. I was on a trip to Ireland with my family. My dad bought me my first Super 8 camera. And from that point on, I just kept filming. From then on in, and I lived 11 houses away from Walt Disney Studios, and I was a paper boy for Walt Disney Studios. And I used to just sneak on the back lot and just the same old story. But anyway, that's where my family home is, and I still have people living there.
That's cool. I mean, it's not necessarily the same old story. I didn't grow up near Disney World to have that experience. Do you remember your first? I mean, I'm sure you did with a lot of things with your camcorder, filming it, like your dogs, your family, things like that. But do you remember your first film where you're like, okay, I am the director of this? Was it that young, or was it in school?
Oh, yes, it was that young. My first film that I shot with that camera was on my house with all my neighbors, and it was called Sniper. And I would fill my friends' mouths with ketchup, and then I would shoot them, and they had to spit out the ketchup. And they thought it's crazy because, when you put ketchup in your mouth, it just tastes, like not so great. But that was my first film, Sniper.
Oh, I love that.
It was great.
And the use of practical effects back then, I think, is great.
Absolutely. It's funny. I gotta digitize that and put it on Instagram or something, because when you just mentioned that, I go, wow, one of my first films was a horror film.
Well, that kind of answers one of the questions I was going to lead to, because this seems Vindicta is a bit of a departure for you, what you normally do. So I was going to ask if it was your first horror film, but it's not. Is it your first one in a while, I guess?
Well, it's my second one, and Vindicta is a suspense thriller horror film. And it's, hopefully I love to go, I grew up on movies like The Exorcist, Halloween, The Shining. And I just always wanted to make something like that. And I always loved the movies with somebody in a mask, Freddy, something that just would scare the hell out of you. And I just finally got the opportunity to make that.
Oh, right on. And I mispronounced it. How do you say it? The name of the movie?
Vindicta.
Vindicta. Okay. I don't know why I'm adding a little flavor to it in addition. So, yeah. I
like the way you said it, though. It's very cool.
Hey, I'm semi-professional. I know some things. But as I mentioned, I watched it over the weekend, and I just need to say this out loud because it was funny. Because I got as I'm sure you're familiar with, those free screeners that, you have to sign up for a password and a link, and it's all encoded in case if I was, a jerk and decided to sell it, very illegal. But it has my name in the middle of it, Brandon Weisler, the entire time as I'm watching it. And there are certain scenes where there are things written on the wall. And I lost myself within it. I was like, wait, that's my name in the movie. Oh, wait, hold on. No, that's just the version I'm watching.
I know.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I know. No, that's great. I get the same screeners. I don't even watch a film without my name plastered across the middle of it.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. But it didn't take away from the good time, because I've seen so many horror movies throughout my life, and obviously there's a variety of ways to approach it, which is why I love the genre so much. And there's the slow burn, there's the ones that go right into it, and I wasn't sure what this was going to be. And I'm not going to give any spoilers, but you're not waiting too long for the action. Was that your intent? How do you, what are your favorite horror movies? Are they the slow burn type? Or are they how you are, where it's just like you're you're pacing yourself quickly at the beginning, then take a step back to kind of explain the story as we continue.
I like all of them. I mean, I grew up on The Exorcist. I grew up on The Shining, Halloween, Scream. But of late, there's Smile and Black Phone and all of these great new movies. And to me, I shoot the script and then I get into editing and I go, I want to just tell it at the right pace that feels right once with these elements that I have. So I like to just get in there very early, but still get to know a character who is, just trying her best to do her first day of work and then gets thrown up against a serial killer amidst the riots in Seattle.
What made Seattle the right location for this one?
No reason. We shot it in Vancouver, and Vancouver kind of matches Seattle nicely. And so that was the main impetus for why we picked that city.
Okay. It just worked well, especially Seattle being the known for all its rain and it was a lot of rain and dark throughout the film. How did you get, because it's the things that I look for when I'm looking for films. I don't read critics because it's always skewed, and I like the more obscure films, but also actors I'm a fan of. So like Sean Astin and Jeremy Piven, I like their work. How did you get them on board?
First of all, I was blessed to work with the best actors ever. So let me just start with Elena Kampouris. She is going to be a major movie star.
Oh, yeah.
She already is. I mean, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, but she is just so talented. And she can sing, she can dance, she can do anything. So I am just so glad to have gotten to work with her early. And then you got Sean Astin. I mean, he's Rudy. He's Lord of the Rings. And I would just drill him on how did you shoot this? And how did you do that? He was there for a couple of years and I was just a big fan, just doing whatever he wanted to tell me. I wanted to listen to it. And then Jeremy Piven, my gosh, what a talent. And it was like having Ari Gold on the set, and it was this presence, but he is such a consummate actor because that's what I know him best from. But he became this warm, loving father. And then the story goes on. So it's just an amazing time that I had with these incredible actors.
It's interesting when you have someone like you and also Sean, Jeremy, and even Elena from My Big Fat Greek Wedding, where you do these maybe lighter projects that might have a ton of profanity, like with Entourage, things like that. But now you're doing a horror thriller. And hey, I like the violence. I like the gore. It's something that attracts me to a lot of horror movies. It's not always, but I like the way you did it. Is that sometimes a challenge for actors to be violent? Do they? Because sometimes it could throw the audience off. Again, I'm not one of those people. So is it a certain mindset that you try to create on set to be like, okay, this is where someone's losing a limb in this scene. Let's get all our game faces on. How do you approach it?
Losing a limb in our film is like they're losing a head. So
I didn't want to be a spoiler. That's why I didn't say head.
I do it doing it bit by bit. It's all it's all magic. It's all fake, and you just talk to the actors. They've read the script, and then you go, "This is how we're going to pull this off." And they were great, and they're just such talented actors. They can play anything. So for them to play these roles, just their talent just breaking out, and they had ideas on how to do it. And so we just worked it out together and made it amazing.
It's funny. I'm glad, spoiler alert for that given by the director, but yeah, I didn't want to say lose a head because that's what got me. I was like, all right, I'm all the way into this movie. And that was very early on. Because I think when people criticize the gore and the violence, they're not really understanding how that adds to the horror element, especially when you have such a, it's not like you have a monster in this movie, like a creature. You have human monsters where people do these things, people do these horrible things. So I think that adds to how scary a film could be. I don't know if you agree with that, or is because some people just think it's just for shock value. I think it's for so much more than that.
Well, I think it's just part of what the story is, and it's real. And I mean, in real life, what's going on in the world today is far worse than anything you could probably see in a movie. So I'm just saying, I'm just playing it real. And if this person exists, which David does, this is what he does.
Yeah. Yeah. So how did the script initially come together? Because I liked it, and I liked the twists. That again, in addition to the gore, that's not all I like, but I like the twists. I like the story. So how did it first come together?
Well, I got the script from Stephen Paul and Ian Nye, and I read it, and it was just absolutely fantastic. And the story was all there, and we just augmented it with the actors that we hired for that.
Okay. Simple, just simple like that. Okay, fair enough. You mentioned a lot of the Exorcist. I'm curious what other films or horror or the thriller genre have inspired you, and to create this, and hopefully more in the future of this genre.
I mean, first, like Halloween with Jamie Lee Curtis, who I had the pleasure to work with. That, The Shining, Stanley Kubrick just blows me away with the types of films he makes. But of late, I love Smile. I love Black Phone. I just love all these movies that are just incredibly just rich and scares and just freaky. So I'm very lucky to have gotten to work on those.
Okay, right on. I love that. Do you think horror in general gets looked down upon by, because you don't often see them being nominated for awards, or is that something you don't even think about? It's just on its own, or do you think it just gets looked down upon in the industry because of perhaps the violence we were talking about?
I don't know. A good performance is a good performance. I mean, look at Silence of the Lambs. That's
Right.
one of the greatest horror films of all time, and they've got some great actors doing their thing. So absolutely, you don't set out to do that, but if the performance is great, everyone will love it.
True, absolutely true. How long were you working on this film? How long did it take to make?
I would say it's a year. We just, if it's coming out now, yeah, we shot it about a year ago, and then with post production and casting before, that's about a year.
That seems quick, no? Or that seems like really
I'd say pretty quick.
okay. Or maybe I'm so
Yeah.
used to talking to people that started it before the pandemic and then finished it after. But I guess we're getting a little bit past that as well. I'm curious, and I haven't asked this in a while to anyone. How did the pandemic kind of affect your view on filmmaking in general, like before, pre, and when you early in your career? Do you approach it differently now? Has it affected it at all?
Well, it had some very straightforward effects in that the pandemic, which first separated us, and I got to watch a lot of films, a lot of horror films, a lot of everything. But we, come up with this thing called Zooming, so everybody now Zooms. So even though the pandemic's over, we still have meetings, and we can have people join a meeting from all over the world at any time. So that was like a positive that I think came out of it. But it's much nicer to film when you're not having to wear masks and be 6 feet away from each other. That was just crazy. That was very hard for that community trying to make it a film. And it's all about getting very intimate with each other, very close, saying the light goes here, the actor's head turns here. That was a challenge during the pandemic.
Okay. Yeah. And well, for me, because where I'm normally working with our friend Bill, producer Bill, in the studio, now I have a home studio. So it's nice. So as terrible as the pandemic was,
Very cool.
I get to talk to you from the comfort of my own home. Are you able
That's
to?
awesome.
It is. I know things are a little bit complicated, with the strike. Are there things other than the baseball movie about Jack Buck you're able to talk about now? Any other projects?
Well, we have Reagan coming out next year, and I just shot a film called Bow, Artist at War for Paramount as well. And that's a story about Joseph and Rebecca Bow. If you saw Schindler's List, they were the couple who got married in the concentration camp. So I went and got the rights to that story, and we were telling the whole story. We shot it all over the world, in Israel, in Poland, in Austria, in Vancouver. And it's an amazing love story set with the Holocaust.
Oh wow, that's fantastic. As a Jewish person, I mean, these are stories that need to be told. So that's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Sean,
Neil Birch and Barladi, and you're gonna just fall in love with them with this story.
awesome. I think it's so cool, the variety of films that you put out, and you must be just, your creative output is never stunted. It seems like you just get to do what you want. Is there still a movie out there that you want to make and it just hasn't materialized yet? Is there like a dream film, or you live in the dream?
I'm living the dream, but the big film that I'm doing now, I got the rights to Leon Uris's Trinity, the Irish story. And we're going to be making that next year in Ireland, and that's going to be a massive, massive movie.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to whatever else you put out. Again, I really enjoyed the film Vindicta. Right? Did I say it right this time? No.
Vindicta.
Vindicta. Everything else sounded good. I should have wrote it. Vindicta. Vindicta was great. Clearly, I watched it, so it's just the name I'm screwing up. Is the best way to keep in contact with you and all the projects you have coming out Instagram or what other socials do you have that people can follow you?
I'm McNamara 6262, and I'm Sean McNamara on FaceTime.
All right, cool. McNamara 6262, and yeah, sorry because you cut out a little bit there. I just wanted to repeat it. So, Sean, thank you so much for your time, and I hope we get to do this again.
I can't wait. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
I am terrible with names. Oh boy, and I just don't care anymore. It's the conversation was great. If I make myself look like an idiot, hopefully you got a chuckle out of it. We all win in the end, right? Hey, you know what? Speaking of winning, I'm going to give you a bonus interview or an excerpt of an interview. So I just also spoke to Scott Patterson, the actor from Gilmore Girls. But I guess if you're listening to this horror podcast, he was a part of the Saw franchise, Saw 4, Saw 5. And I spoke to him for us. Okay, so I spoke to him about his new show. It's called Sullivan's Crossing. It's a drama. It's a drama that's on the CW. And if you want to hear the entire interview with Scott Patterson, where we talk about his new show, we talk about Guns N' Roses, because it's a crossover episode with my mothership podcast, Appetite for Distortion, and horror, how he can go from Gilmore Girls to the bloody violence of Saw. So we speak about horror as well. So you can see the entire interview and listen, watch, whoever you want to do, but you have to go on YouTube, our YouTube channel. It's the Appetite for Distortion YouTube channel. Just type in Appetite for Distortion at the AFD podcast, whatever. And there is a playlist on there that's all Appetite for Horror, where you can watch and listen to all of the previous episodes as well, in addition to the usual podcast platforms. So you can hear the entire thing there. But as a special present for you on this Friday the 13th, here is the horror section of that interview. Enjoy. How does it feel to be a part of the Saw franchise that just hit movie number 10? And you were in 4 and 5, I believe. And it's so funny because, again, in Gilmore, I had never seen it. I'm like, that's the guy from Saw. That's the guy I knew from everything else. So how does it feel like when you play
I don't think
character? God, sorry.
I don't think I could have chosen anything so different from the other show than that. The reason I took the job was because I'd never played a character like that. It was an FBI psychological profiler, which fascinated me, absolutely fascinated me. You can't really judge the genre. You can't judge anything. You just got to look at the role. What can you bring to this role? And I could bring fresh eyes to it because I'd never done anything like it. I went to the FBI in Los Angeles, and they put me through sort of a mini training program. It was fascinating. I learned a ton, and executed the role. The director, to his credit, gave me a lot of freedom to structure my own scenes and to choreograph my own scenes and block them out. I love that, and I think that's why it had such resonance with the audience. I like being given the freedom to do my own thing.
So again, Scott Patterson, and again, thank you to Sean McNamara. Episode 18 of Appetite for Horror coming to a close. I encourage you to please follow me on social media. Appetite, the number 4 horror on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And what I've been doing this month, and you may be doing as well, every day you're posting a horror movie that you're watching for all 31 days of this horror month of Halloween, which I guess in theory, and maybe I'll do it, just post one every day after October, because I've seen enough horror movies to easily fill up a year or two, which is or more, which is crazy, right? When you say it out loud. But if you go on any of those social media, you will be able to see what movies I've been watching so far this month. I'll give you a few. Just saw Ma, M-A, Ma, currently streaming on Tubi and Netflix. I think it's, last time I checked, it was in the top 10 of Netflix, but it's from 2019. Totally missed this one, with Octavia Spencer. I know she's done horror films, but never in this kind of role that she's in. And wow, I mean, without her, I may not have enjoyed it as much, but she is awesome. I really hope to get to see her in more horror films in that role, because what a talented actress. And this is just, I know it's more comedy than horror, but if there's any opportunity to talk about Dracula dead and loving it, you have to bring it up. Leslie Nielsen, one of the greatest comedies, not just of the 90s, but of all time. So fucking funny. The movie is so funny. I crack up. I watched it again recently. I watched it so much as a kid, and I hadn't seen it for a while, and the jokes hit me like fresh. Just brilliant film. Let's see, what else did I put up there? Chained. Ooh, Chained is a very powerful and dark and depressing film with Vincent D'Onofrio, and he basically chains up a young boy who ends up growing up with him after. Well, I guess it's not a spoiler alert if I tell you the plot, but he likes to capture and kill women. And one time this woman had a kid, and he stole the kid. And yeah, it's that kind of a movie, but it's a great film. Uncle Peckerhead. Hey, don't be thrown off by the title. That is as fun and gory and rock and roll, punk rock as a film. Uncle Peckerhead is so good. Two films. There's another one I just watched that passed me over that was recent, like Ma, from 2019. WER, short for werewolf, and it's a fantastic werewolf movie. It's one of those slow burns, as opposed to what we were talking earlier about with Sean McNamara with his film, that he just kind of got right into it. But it's worth it. Just a really well told story, and didn't go crazy with trying to make this guy look like a werewolf. It was like a human beast, and it was pretty great. And this film, I was going to skip over it. I tried not to watch it, but I kept seeing it pop up in all my streaming services, and I'm glad I watched it. Benny Loves You, about a killer, cute little doll that kind of looks like Ickis from Ah Real Monsters, like this red doll with bulging eyes and floppy ears. It's a cute little doll. And it's like, all right, another killer doll movie. No, it was actually pretty good. There were funny moments. The violent scenes were good. It was funny. I enjoyed it more than Megan or Mithrigan, which I think was overrated. So just, again, check out any of my social media. Appetite, the number 4 horror, for just throughout this month to see more horror movies that we're watching together, and maybe you'll get some ideas. And if you see mine, and you want to trade your idea, well, hey, have you seen this? I encourage it. And as far as upcoming episodes of Appetite for Horror, well, you never know. This is, as I mentioned before, I have a mothership podcast, Appetite for Distortion, which has a Guns N' Roses theme. Then I have my actual radio job. I have another job on top of that. I have a baby. You don't care. His name, again, is, I was going by Horror Harrison, but Horrorson is good. And I learned, because I'm not going to exploit my baby, that he's too young to watch horror with. I was having fun when he was real small and just holding him sleeping, and I'm watching horror movies. But now he's aware of sound, so scary sounds, and just he doesn't like it. So we're going to wait. Before I expose him to horror, and that's going to be a fun chapter of this podcast. So look forward to that in the future, at least. Okay? Until then, keep your appetite for horror satiated.